Dirt. That does good. The 2017 Super Bowl looked like a blowout. In the third quarter, the score was 28-3. The overtime ending score was 34-28. I don't really want to say who the winning team was because I'm not really trying to celebrate the New England Patriots. Not my team. Not really. The team that lost the biggest lead in Super Bowl history, the Atlanta Falcons, they're not my team either. As of 2008, they dubbed themselves the Dirty Birds. Don't worry, I'm not getting ready to do the dance. I thought about it. Thought about it. I do know it. I know it, but I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing the Dirty Bird. A falcon is a bird of prey, also known as a raptor. They hunt and they feed off of other vertebrates. They've got keen eyesight, they've got sharp talons, and they have powerful beaks. Brothers and sisters, the fastest animal on the earth is not a blue wildebeest. It's not a lion, even though both those animals can sprint up to 50 miles an hour. It's not an antelope, even though they can sprint up to 55 miles an hour. It's not even a cheetah, which can run at 70 miles an hour. The peregrine falcon is recorded to have dived at speeds over 200 miles an hour. That's quick. That dirty bird, that bird that preys on others. And in our lives, dirt is generally a problem. And we think of problems as bad. We think of problems as dirty. And as much as Game of Thrones is a fictitious show, it does depict some dirty behavior of the history of humanity well. In 1853 in England, Catholic priests were only male. And they were made celibate. Yes, I said made celibate, not called to celibacy, but made celibate. In my casual reading, I came across a word that describes the theological perspective of the Catholic Church, and that word is transubstantiation. I know you probably came across it this week in your reading as well. Transubstantiation. Might not seem like it's a big deal. What it means is that during the Eucharist, what we often refer to as communion or the Lord's Supper, the bread and the wine, according to transubstantiation, miraculously become the literal body and blood of Jesus Christ. Even though the elements do not change their appearance, according to transubstantiation, the blood and the body of Christ actually are turned from the bread and wine that are used. I'm not sure that the problem is theological as much as it is hermeneutic, or the interpretation of what is presented because of that. Because that hermeneutic is that the church is the bride of Christ and that the apostles represent Christ, the interpretation or hermeneutic is that only men could be priests. Women were, in effect, dirt. The priests who were made celibate were not called to celibacy. But because priests could not represent Christ and touch a woman who was deemed dirty, since women's bodies were considered dirty, no one could give the Eucharist but priests who were made celibate, because they were the only ones who had not been defiled by a woman. Wonder how well that worked out. Well, priests officially could not marry, and their children could not be considered legitimate. A Baylor professor, author, Dr. Beth Allison Barr, who now teaches at Baylor and used to take her students in London to the Church of St. Magus the Martyr. There in London, there was a graveyard filled with unmarked graves. It's got a circular sign on it which reads, Crossbones Graveyard. And the people have created a memorial shrine there which reads, The Outcast Dead. Rest in peace. This graveyard of unknown people was a place for the concubines of the priests who died. It was a place that those who were not allowed to marry, and for the brothel workers, often led by priests, who had children whose priestly daddies never accepted them or identified them as their children. I've tried to help us understand when I preach Matthew 4:18 through 22 that we can be dirty and yet Christ can still call us to become disciples. I tried to express to us when I preached Hebrews 11:31 that we can be dirty and still then become delivered. Today I want to hopefully talk to you about the fact that there is dirt that does good. John chapter 9, verse 6. In the NIV declares, after saying this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. I don't care where you've been. I don't care what you've done. I don't care where you've gone. I don't care what anybody else calls you. The sermon in the sentence is simple. God can take dirt and make it do good. The context of this message, chapter 8, there was a woman who was caught in the very act of adultery, and the religious leaders wanted to mess over Christ and get him in trouble and see what he had to say. Jesus' identity was questioned in chapter 8. And who his real followers were considered in John chapter 8. And then here comes Jesus in chapter 9, who encountered a man who was born blind. As they went along, he saw a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? His answer written in red. Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus. But this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. Just as long as it is to this day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no man can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Verse 6, after saying this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. Why should it even matter if there is dirt that does good? My first point from this text is that the dirt is lacking but has potential. The dirt is lacking, but it has potential. The text says in verse 6, the ground. That's the dirt, the ground. That's I know dirt might seem like much. It might not seem like it matters. It might not seem to have worth. But you do realize that Jesus made it all. I don't care how much we look at another person and think of them as dirt. I don't care how much we discern that dirt is just dirt. It might seem cheap, it might seem to have no value. But the one who before time, made time, created time, transcends time, Jesus recognized that the dirt is lacking, but it has potential. I'm not going to call the name because if this person ever watched it, I don't want to embarrass them. But Friday night, we went to a football game, and someone that we care about very much, after several times of being back to receive the kickoff and the ball going out of bounds, the ball going to somebody else, he was the designated receiver to receive the kickoff, but he didn't even get it. And then he finally got it, and he fumbled. Later in the game, they were getting drove. It was not a pretty sight. It did not look good. The fact that he was wearing number 1 did not seem to matter. The fact that he's a captain on the team did not seem to matter. It was not going well. It was ugly. It wasn't pretty. But finally, his quarterback recognized that he'd been getting open route after route after route, and he threw him the ball, and he caught it. And he fumbled again. I know football is a team sport. I recognize that, sometimes a player will do something that doesn't end up going well and somebody else will come to their rescue. But in this occasion, the other team scored both times. And so both of his turnovers turned into touchdowns. I'm trying to express to you that sometimes all that we do, even when we're doing our best, is just like dirt. We can give our all. We can try, no matter how hard we try, and we find ourselves, a fumble is you caught the ball or you had the possession of the ball and then you drop the ball on the ground. The ball is now in the dirt, and when the other team recovers it, it's a fumble. We can try all we want to, but sometimes it's just that we're just like dirt. So she was at the game, so she knows other things that happen. I'll bring up other stuff. Right now I'm talking about dirt. Earlier this year, we were in prayer for somebody who was fighting for his life. And the Maxey family didn't know if he was going to make it. And the truth is, all of us, at some point in our lives, will be in a fight for our lives. Whether it's a health challenge, whether it's issues related to decisions that we make, whether it's who we hang with, whether it's being put in prison, whether it's choosing to do drugs or alcohol to excess, where we are nothing but dirt. But God created every last one of us in his image. And the truth is, even if, like these Catholic priests, someone is treated as less than, thrown away, treated as though they don't even matter, we may all start off and be dirt. But God recognizes that the dirt is lacking, but it has potential. My second point is not only is the dirt lacking, but has potential, the divine is leading because he has power. The dirt is lacking, but it has potential. The divine is leading because he has power. The text talks about how he spit. And later on, it does his action. And he put it on the man's eyes. Jesus is doing the behavior. He's doing the action. So even though the dirt is just dirt and it has potential, the divine is leading because he has power. God can take whatever is broken and he can fix it. Don't ever look at somebody else or even yourself and think that no matter what the situation is, no matter how filled with dirt it is, no matter how dirty it is, no matter how down it is, no matter how disgusting it is, no matter how disappointing it is, don't ever think that God, who is divine, cannot take that dirt and do what he does. Lead it to where he wants it to go and be what he wants it to be. Why? Because he has power. There's only one other place that this word is used. It's used in Mark chapter 7, starting with verse 31. Then Jesus left the vicinity of Tyre and went through Sidon. From the Sea of Galilee into the region of the Decapolis. There, some people brought to him a man who was deaf and could barely talk. And they begged Jesus to place his hand on him. That's what they asked for. They asked Jesus simply to put his hand on him. And after he took him aside, away from the crowd, Jesus put his fingers in the man's ears. Then he spit and touched the man's tongue. He looked up to heaven and with a deep sigh said to him, Ephphatha, which means be opened. And at this, the man's ears were opened. His tongue was loosened, and he began to speak. Forgive me for the graphic depiction of how that went on, but when you think about how gross it is, they asked him to put his hands on him, and we might find it disgusting, but when it's you who needs to be healed, it's never disgusting how and what Jesus chooses to do. If we think that someone else's healing is disgusting, it might be that we're not really empathizing with what they've gone through and where they are and how it goes. When you think about it, all medicine is in some degree kind of disgusting. There's a lot of people that want to be nurses, a lot of people that want to be doctors, a lot of people that want to be in the medical field, and they can't do it because they can't stand the sight of blood. They can't stand bodily fluids. They can't stand some of what is disgusting. And what Jesus did might appear disgusting, except for the one who was healed. And for those of us who've been transformed by the healing power of Jesus, who has done for us what we could never do for ourselves because all we were was dirt with potential. But when the divine led through his power and did what we could not do for ourselves, it's not disgusting, it's divine, and it's wonderful. The dirt is lacking, but it has potential. The divine is leading because he has power. God can take whatever it is that is broken and he can fix it. That poor fella, I really felt bad for him. On Friday night, you'd have thought that he was on an opposing team to this year's Chilton Pirates, because that team got drove 43-10. That's not cute. And it could have been worse. He had fumbled twice. But I wish you could have seen what I saw. In the middle of the game, when they are down and they only had 3 points on the board and they hadn't scored a single touchdown, his quarterback finally decided to throw him the ball, but the quarterback threw an interception. There were 2 defenders, and he went up in the air and he caught the ball. I know I said he threw an interception because that's what he did. He threw an interception, but the one we care about and we loved went up in the air. It was a beautiful work of poetry, and he caught a ball. It was one of the most beautiful catches I've ever seen in high school football. The quarterback didn't get it done, but he did, and he scored their only touchdown of the entire game. It's beautiful to see what can be and to consider how God can do some things that we can't do on our own. Is a beautiful catch. The dirt is lacking, but it has potential. The divine is leading because he has power. Don't ever miss out on what God can do. And finally, the destiny is loving by his presence. The destiny is loving by his presence. The text said he made some mud with the saliva. God's presence changes everything. What was only dirt, it has potential because of God's presence. What was powerless becomes powerful because of his divine presence. What he makes that was less than and could not be becomes destiny when he shows up and does what only he can do. When you have a chance, check a look at Romans 9:21, I want you to know, brothers and sisters, the potter has power over the clay. When he spits into the dirt and makes clay, the potter can do with it what he wants. He can design what he wants. And that which was only dirt in his presence becomes absolutely beautiful. I thought that because the game had gone so poorly, 43-10, because he had fumbled twice and he felt down and low, that was just horrible. Even though I had a picture of that beautiful catch with a quarterback threw a interception, but he went up and caught it and made it a touchdown in between two defenders. That wasn't the best part. The best part was that despite that 43-10 score, he was willing after the game with his stinky uniformed self to be in a picture and hug my wife and I. The game, even though it didn't turn out like he wanted it to, something that was more powerful than the game will ever be. That game is history. It's over. It's done with. But he valued the relationship more than the game. Even though he was sad, even though he was disappointed, even though he was hurt, he valued our presence. Jesus became dirt. Emmanuel came down from heaven and became like us. He was born of a virgin and lived a sinless life. He is divine, and he proved it on the third day because he got up after having died. He rose again with all power, heaven and earth in his hands. He chooses to be in our presence. He chooses to be in your life. Do you choose to follow him? God can use a dirty bird for good. Raptors, scavengers. And when their ability to dive at breakneck speed is not going well because who knows, maybe there's a drought and there's not a lot going on, God can use a dirty bird to clean up what others think are refuge, to feed the bird, and to bless the ecosystem. God can take dirt and he can use it for good. God can make our mess and turn it into a masterpiece. He can remove our misery and make us feel marvelous. He can make mud that morphs us into a musical melody for all to enjoy. If you have not chosen to follow him and let him be the potter and you simply the clay, I invite you to do that today.